Well, hello, my CNC brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Wednesday night hangout, CNC Hangout with me. And we got our brother Mark Lindsay on board. He has volunteered to take the place of Kate. Kate is dealing with medical issues with her son, and so they're doing a lot of stuff there. Some major stuff is going on, and so she couldn't make it tonight. And so she asked Mark if he'd fill in, and Mark graciously did it again. Mark, you just keep coming back, brother.
You know me, the most dangerous place you can stand is between me and a camera. You say,
Yeah,
you
I
want to
know.
come on? Yeah, sure.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining, getting on board, and backing me up. And so I'm not sitting here solo. And yeah, so it's one another night of chewing the fat and chewing the CNC fat, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. You got Mark, who's been doing this stuff for 10 years now, you said?
Well, going on 9.
Right.
Going on
Okay.
9 years. About this November, December, it'll be 9 years.
All right.
So,
Got it. You're at it longer than I am, for sure, brother. For
well,
sure.
there's a lot of people been at it a lot longer than me. I'm just not afraid to make mistakes in public.
Right, right. So, well, that's so cool. I mean, you just started doing this just by shooting videos and just helping people out that way, and before you know it, it started to become a thing.
Yeah, and I'm having the time of my life with it. I
It,
really am.
it is. You can't ask for a better bunch of people to be hanging with and talking
True.
to, um, and helping, and them helping us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I learn from the folks that I interact with, subscribers to my channel members, and just folks that email me things. I'm talking with a man right now that does some absolutely beautiful marquetry, and I want to try to get him on my show and the members only side. And it has absolutely nothing to do with CNC, but it's fascinating. And it's
Mm,
kind of an attempt to maybe inspire people to think outside of the box, you
yeah,
know, that
yeah,
there
and
are other ways.
yeah, that's a really good point, right? We can carve things on CNC all day long, but we can get like super creative on
Hmm.
CNCs as well, well beyond just carving a sign or whatever we make. I mean, not that uh, that can be I just have a lot of fun. I haven't done a lot of advanced stuff, but just creating that stuff is just fun. But there are a ton of things you can do. Okay, so brothers and sisters, Mark, I was at WorkbenchCon over last week, and I got to tell you, that was a blast. That was a total blast. But we'll get to that one in a minute. First of all, I want to say some hellos and give a shout out to Kevin Rich for being the very first one who left his comment on board here. So Kevin, you get a big yay, man! He's the first one in the room,
Yeah, I got
even
beat this
before.
time for some reason.
Yeah, and then okay, so Eric and Brian, we got Ellen on board. Hi, Ellen. Gary Lynn back again. Chris Gallagher. Yeah, Gallagher. Sorry, Chris. And of course, there's good old Mark Lindsay, Gary Bailey from Dresden, Ohio. Brian Neighbor, Weston, right? And what? Kurt Brugel, and he's from northern Wisconsin. So
Yep.
I don't know how you say Wisconsin. I hear those from Wisconsin say Wisconsin with the kind of a nasal twang. Everybody else in my world says Wisconsin.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of
so you're all
almost an A, Wisconsin.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. Every time I hear Wisconsin, the way they say it, it
Mhm,
always just jumps out at me. Okay,
mhm.
it's almost getting up to Canada, and they start to draw on that Canada accent up there.
Yeah.
And so these few have been hanging around for quite a while. Oh, Michael Mazelik's on board. Mike, good to see you, brother. Hey, Mike, we want to get you on this show so you can talk to people a little bit about the 3D modeling. So I asked Julianne to get hold of you and see if you would not mind coming on board and talking to people about Aspire because I don't have much skill at that one. How about you, Mark?
Michael is he's a wizard. The man is a wizard, and
yeah.
you know, it that's about all you can say. He's forgotten more about this software than I've learned, and he is my 3D Obi-Wan. You know, I mean, that's all
So
there is to it.
he's your guru. He's your guru.
Uh-huh. That's right.
You watch Mike Mazzelik's videos on 3D modeling, and you'll
Mhm.
see exactly what Mark is talking about. So, what's the name of his channel? Is it Michael Mazzelik?
Michael Mazalik, yes.
Okay, so search that out and subscribe to his channel. And Julianne, if you would please drop a link to Mike's channel into the description or the comments. Oz is here, and we have Mike Clifton, Tim, and who else? Scrolling down the list. Got to get way down there. This guy's been chewing the fat for quite a while. Billy McGee, what's going on? He messaged me a couple of days ago. We had to solve a problem. And we got Carolyn and Joseph Thurman. And I'm not reading where everybody's from, but who else we got? Oh, Vortex is here again. Vortex 8. And Wandering Star. Okay, who's Wandering Star? It's from San Antonio. The Wandering Star's been here before. And so that's very cool. All right. Rocco and a few others. Lee Stanley is on board. And Pete Reynolds from Frederick. All right. And the rest of you, hello, welcome. And thank you for joining on board, hanging out with us. So first of all, let's cover house rules. Before I do that, Julianne, I'm going to bring you forward. So this is the gatekeeper of the StreamYard. This is Julianne. She is the administrative coordinator for IDC Woodcraft, the woman that keeps me square and straight, or at least tries. I'm always throwing new stuff at her. And she keeps up with me. She totally keeps up with me. But anyway, she's in the background, making sure your questions are getting checked for Mark and I, so we can answer them. So when you ask a question, please please start it off with question or question marks, so it'll help her find those and get those started for us, so we can start bringing them out. And so Julianne will be in the background. Liberty is not here yet. Liberty is in the middle of buying herself a new car, which she has been needing for a while. Yeah. So she's doing that now. But she's pretty excited. Go ahead.
That's not a short process. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah. But first of all, I want to tell you, so Liberty has been learning the ropes of CNC. I've been teaching her what I know. She's been going through Kyle Ely's course, and I want her to get better than me. But she's sucking it up like a sponge. So a couple weeks ago, we asked you, everybody here, is Liberty is carving names. So like here, she did William, all right? She did Robert. She did Carolyn. Was it okay? Carolyn, and the other one was Water Rat. What was it, Julianne? Was it Water Rat? Okay, so if you want your name carved, what we're going to do, we'll carve it, she'll carve it, and it'll go into a short on YouTube and all the other short platforms. So type in the comments the name that you want her to carve, and she will get working on it. And Julianne is going to be listing those names out. So that's that. And house rules, please keep your comments clean, be nice to people. This is a creative space. And IDC Woodcraft has a zero tolerance policy. If you get really nasty, we're going to boot you off the channel and out of the lives. So it's just no room for that. We're all a bunch of creators.
Right.
So let's first of all, I want to talk about WorkbenchCon. So for those of you who don't know, that's once a year. WorkbenchCon is basically a meet and greet for not only the content creators like me and Mark and other people you know, Izzy Swan and whatnot. It's also a hangout for other people who just want to get together. And I tell you, there are about 1,000 people at at this convention where a lot of talking, not so much. There are a few companies there, but a lot of just hanging out with the woodworking, CNC, non-CNC brothers and sisters. Total blast. I totally recommend it. But I did meet a lot of content creators, and I was talking to them, and we are going to be bringing a lot of these on as special guests. So people like Hamilton, Izzy Swan. My phone is tied up, and that's where I have it listed at. We're going to bring Izzy Swan on. We're going to bring Kyle Ely back. He was at the thing. We're going to bring Ryan Trapella back, and James from James Dean Designs. Right, we're going to work on him. And who else we got? I can't remember all of them, but I have a whole list of names, and we are now starting to make contact. And my goal is to have special guests on here every week, not just CNC, but just things that we can work with: woodworking, finishing, furniture refinishing, whatever. It's just brings the creators on board that have been doing this for a while, are experts, so we all can learn from this.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. So right now I'm working on, we're going to have Daniel from Pawn CNC. For those of you who have been wondering about, whether you should get a spindle for your CNC router, like you see here on my long mill, I'm switched over. And so we're going to bring Daniel on, who his company sells those as plug and play kits. We're going to bring Long Mill on board. Got a whole bunch of people coming. I'll bring Onefinity. I'll bring Avid. I was talking to Avid. So we're getting a really good lineup of people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
nice. There we are. All right. So I got lots of notes here of different things, but I'll share them as we go along. And for those of you that do know or don't know, IDC Woodcraft guarantees the bits for 90 days. So, Mark, we have a policy. If you break your bit within 90 days after you order it, we'll replace it, no questions asked, even if you broke it by accident, user error.
Nice.
Yeah, that's just
nice.
That's the cost of doing business. Now, one of the things I've found is, they break their bit. They only have one. Now they got a project sitting there. They can't do anything until they get the replacement. So we're working on revamping that guarantee process so we can get your bit out to you right away. The thing that holds up the process, we want the bit back so we can make sure it's one of our router bits. Because I don't want to replace other people's bits. So
understood.
Yeah, but we're working on that one for those of you who want a little speedier service. That's really what we want to do. So there we go. All right, Mark, you ready to dive in? You got anything to share before we dive into some questions?
Only that I wanted to say thank you to Ray Russell Sr. I see that he is out there in the chat. Sent an email, but this is what I mean when I say to people, you got to be careful what you say on YouTube, because it's good and it's bad. It depends on what you say. Obviously, we know the negative ramifications, but I have a couple of sayings that are just kind of automatic to me. And one of them is saying the wrong word is my thing. I do it constantly. I know what I want to say, but that's not what comes out. Well, guess what I got in the mail today? Saying the wrong word is my thing. Ray, thank you. You're brilliant. You are brilliant. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's always fun getting something in the mail, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Especially
Mark, what's your t-shirt size? I'm like, uh-oh.
Wow.
Well,
something's coming.
Yeah. But
That's funny.
Thank you. I mean, this was brilliant, and watch for it in videos and live streams from now on, because it's perfect. So
yeah. The other one is howdy, y'all.
Yeah. Well, the other one is, I know you think you understood what I said, but what you heard was not what I meant. And he printed that on a t-shirt as well. That's going to be in
good
there.
Lord. Good Lord. That is too funny. Love you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So before we dive in, just everyone send your thoughts to Kate, our sister, with her things going on with her son. So Mark is here filling in for her tonight, as Mark graciously has volunteered to do whenever he possibly can when one of us can't make it.
Yeah.
So Mike Mazzelli said, Liberty, is it going to be a company car?
Yeah.
IDC doesn't have a company car yet. All right, Mike, let's dive right in, Mark, and we're going to start off with Ellen. Madra 3212. It's Ellen. Why am I not able to follow anything but a single line vector in the fluting toolpath? Is there a way to make the width wider in order to get a smooth, gradual ramp?
Basically, the fluting toolpath is created for one vector. It's meant to gradually ramp in, cut along, and then ramp out, or just do a long tapered plunge to get that smooth taper. About the only way that you can make that wider is A, use a wider bit, which is probably going to be the best bet, or B, draw multiple vectors really close together. The warning on that, though, is let me pull something up here in Aspire, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share here. I can go with that. Let's say you have a bunch of vectors together like this. You can select all these vectors and then do a fluting toolpath. And with a 1/4 inch ball nose, let's ramp over the complete length, and we'll calculate it and then preview it. It will create that taper, but if you zoom in, you've got all these cusps in between. So if you can use a wider bit, for instance, if I reset and I change that to a, let's go with my 1/2 inch ball nose, calculate that, and we'll preview that. That does help, but you've still got a bunch of cusps down there. So your best bet is usually just to get a wider bit. But you can, I mean, and it doesn't have to be a ball nose. It'll work with basically any bit. So if I
like a bull bit, you could use the bull bit. That's got a flat bottom to it.
And that's where I was getting ready to go with this 3/4 inch diameter bull bit. And let's calculate that and then preview it, and let's see what it does. That is much nicer.
Much cleaner.
So obviously you probably wouldn't be cutting anything this wide with what you're working on, but that's one way of doing it. You know, just and you wouldn't need as many vectors as I have here in this 3D view. This was like 20 vectors separated 1/8 of an inch apart. But that's basically your options, is to either use a wider bit or put a bunch of vectors real close together. So
yep. Fluting toolpath is basically a profile toolpath on the line only.
Yeah, and it will follow only one vector. Now, again, you can, like I did, I selected a whole bunch of individual vectors, but if we come up here and take a look, I go into node editing, we can see that they are all open vectors, just spaced real closely together. So, you know, it's that's how that works anyway.
Right. And for those of you that don't know what a fluting toolpath is, it gives you the option to create a path in from like the surface, and it can ramp down in, create kind of a bowl shape, or or you can just ramp down in on a straight line and then go straight across. You can use it for drainage channels on cutting boards or soap dishes. So fluting tool paths are pretty cool, but they are basically what Mark said. They're just profile on the line type of cuts.
Right. And I've seen flutes carved with ball nose bits. You'll see them like on the styles of a bookcase with a face frame. You'll
Mhm.
see two real wide styles on either side of the bookcase with a couple of flutes carved in, and you can see where it's carved in and then gone straight down and then carved back out. All that can be done within the fluting tool path, and it's really very cool.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
have a rotary axis, applying that to the outside of a piece that you
Ooh,
have turned, like a table leg or something like that, is a real cool feature as well.
that would look really cool. I've got a rotary for my long wheel. I just haven't installed it yet. The
Yeah,
first thing I want to make is a Harry Potter wand for my daughter.
there you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
that'll be fun. All right, let's hit the next one from Gary Lynn. Hey, Gary. When setting your XY, do you set it at the center of the bit or the edge? V carving was easy. Put the point on the very corner. Thanks in advance. Setting your, you set it at the center of the bit or the edge.
The center of the bit, always.
Center of the bit. Yeah.
And in fact, you kind of answered your own question there. And this is a little tip. If you're not using a 3-way touch plate, it's perfectly fine to go ahead and put a V-bit in your machine, in the collet, bring it over and use that V-bit to set your X and Y. Then once you have those zeros set, you can lift it up, take that V-bit out, and then put in whatever bit you're going to use. I do that quite often. If I have a project where my XY is in the center for some reason, I will put a V-bit in there. I use a 15-degree V-bit, so I got that long needle point. And I can get it right there on the center, set my X and Y 0, then take that V-bit out and put in my 1/4-inch end mill or ball nose or whatever I'm going to use.
Yeah, then you just probe your Z.
Then just set the Z when I get the bit I'm going to use in and ready to go.
Right. I just put a video out about a week ago where I explained how how the homing switches work, how the homing sensors work. And so once you locate that, is this just kind of a side thought? When you locate your XY and you have homing on your CNC router, when you locate that, you'll have those numbers on your machine, the distance from machine home, and you can write those numbers down. And the reason I'm telling you this is because, say you have a power out or something happens,
Right.
and you need to reposition your router bit exactly at that start point with a homing position. When you position your bit to your XY position, you can read the machine distance numbers and write those down, and you can always just move straight back from home position when you get the machine fired back up.
Yeah. And if your controller software allows you to set, say, a G55, 56, or 57 offset, you can actually use those known locations after homing, put it into G55, and the machine will automatically move to that position that you have set. Like I have 2 work positions on my CNC table right now, and I start it up, I home it, I tell it to go into G55, tell it to go to work XY0, and it goes zip right over to that corner.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is mount it right there, and it just starts cutting.
All right. Yeah, I with the machine that Liberty has now, I've been teaching her about that because we have homing sequence on it, and we've set 4 different work offsets now, and
Perfect.
so now it's all preset. We home the machine, then we type we put in the G code G55 for her first thing, and it just goes right to where it needs to go. Julianne, because my mouse, that double clicking it is doing, I think I bumped off one of the starred questions before Eric. So if you could just double check. My mouse has been giving me a hard time, so I told Julianne today, order me another one.
Whoops.
Yep. Whoops. Okay. Well, let's get on to Eric then. Hey, Eric, when using a roundover bit, do you have to compensate for the diameter at the bottom of the bit and depth, or does the software take that into consideration? So, Mark will add to what I'm about to tell you. First of all, there's two types of roundover bits. There are the pointed roundover bits, and there's flat bottom roundover bits. And at IDC Woodcraft, we only have the pointed roundover bits. And so you don't generally have to offset the pointed bits. You can go right on the line. Now, it's still going to leave a little bit of a mark where the bit ends as far as locating or offsetting. It'll still leave a little bit of a line where that bit is cutting right at the point. If you're doing like a cutout of the project and you're using that profile line as your cutout line and your roundover bit is running the center on that cutout line or the profile line, then it'll leave a little bit of a mark because of that. But if you have a flat bottom roundover bit, then you do have to offset that bit by the amount of the roundover. Now, a roundover bit is considered a form tool. And so what you need to do is design that into your software. Mark, you have a video on form tools, right?
I do have a video on form tools, and funnily enough, the example I used was a point cutting roundover bit. But I'm going to be remaking that video down the road simply because I forgot a couple of crucial pieces of information. So, but it is there. Yes, it's the example bit I used was a point cutting roundover bit.
Okay.
So,
okay. Julianne, will you see if you can find that on Mark's channel and just link that into the comments? The form cutting.
it's adding a form tool or something to that nature. But the answer to the question is, when you draw in it, because it's a form tool, you will have to draw in the profile of the bit, the right side, just the right side. And it will take into consideration all of the depth and everything after you get that entered. It will calculate that automatically. So
yeah, as far as the depth of cut though, so your form tool, you're basically designing, like Mark said, you're designing the right side of the bit, and then the software will take care of the rest once you tell it that this is what you're using to create that tool. But for like the IDC roundover 1/4 inch, you can't go the full 1/4 inch depth. Otherwise, you'll start going into the bead cutting area. So you have to go a little bit shallow. And the IDC Woodcraft database, that number is taken care of for you. And I've done a video. Julianne, get that video too, please, of the how to set up or how to use a roundover bit. She's smiling. She probably already did. She's always on top. She reads my mind at this point. So, but what was I saying? Yeah, the software in watch that video, and also the depth of cut that's set in the software is set for this particular bit to get a smooth top roundover.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll get a little bit of a step, and you'll start getting what's called a bead cut. And a bead cut is when it comes down like that and goes around and comes out and goes down.
Yeah.
Nice little effect on a project.
Yeah, it can be pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to come into Jeremy. Garrett, you have 8 sheets of 1/8 inch hardboard, making small parts to hold 12 golf balls. Going to run my Onefinity at max speed of 1,250 inches per minute. If that's what you think the beast will tear out. Continued. Should I use the 1/4 inch end mill? Not looking for pretty results. So I can 1,250. That's a pretty serious feed rate. First of all, using the beast. By the way, Mark, have you used the beast yet?
I have not yet. I haven't been able to start this up since August.
Okay.
I'm going through withdrawals. I'm serious. I want to come out tomorrow and just run it back and forth just to hear it move.
Right.
But yeah, 1250. My first question is, can a Onefinity do 1250? Maybe the motors
Right.
might be able to, but will it get up to that speed? My Avid is capable of doing 1,000, and that scares the hell out of me. You know, I have it sitting at rapids right now. We're 600 inches per minute, but 1,000. There's too much weight on that gantry to be slinging around that fast. I doubt you're going to get 1,250 inches per minute on that Onefinity.
Yeah.
You know,
And here's one of the problems. Onefinity is not a closed loop system. And what that means is the motors know exactly where they're at, and they know if they lose their position. So closed loop, it's like the controls talking to the motors talking to controls. It's saying I'm here, and they. But when you don't have a closed loop, what happens is the controller is still pushing the machine. But if you're going that fast, you can actually overpower the motors and pull it out of steps, and it can just keep on cutting and cut off in some direction. So I wouldn't, first of all, recommend going to that speed. Do I think the Beast will handle it on that material? Yeah, yes, I do. But I wouldn't be going that fast. The Beast, I was able to run that at 1,000 inches per minute on maple at 1-inch depth of cut, right? But I wouldn't be going. I wouldn't be going that rate on your machine. Go ahead.
My table is 48 by 48. Well, actually 49 by 49 cutting capacity. And I turned it up to 1,000 inches per minute and started playing with it. It got up to about 900 inches per minute before it had to start slowing down, so it didn't hard crash at the other end of that axis. So I don't know that you're going to have enough room on your table to get it up that fast. So that's what I mean by I don't think it would actually do it. Now, I know nothing about the Onefinity Elite, so I don't know what kind of drive system it has. Is it, if it's lead screw or ball screw, it's not going to get up to that speed because there's a physical limit as to how fast those things can spin.
Yeah.
So, I doubt you're going to get that much speed. You can set the inches per minute to whatever you want, but your machine is always going to move at the speed of the slowest axis. So if it's plunging at 30 inches per minute, that's what your machine's going to move at.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Jeremy's saying the Elite does have closed loop. That's one with
okay.
the master controller. So,
Okay.
But even so, it's got NEMA 34s on it.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, you're going too fast. You're gonna go.
I mean, you can try it. You can do anything once.
Right.
Okay?
Anything once.
You can do
But Mark's
anything
right.
once.
Yeah. Mark's right. You gotta account for acceleration up and deceleration, and
Right.
that's worked into the control. And if the control can handle it, and the motors can handle it, and your spindle can handle it, and your ball screws can handle it, then you're ready to rock and roll. But
now, will the material handle it? Will your bit handle it? That's another story.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. So the Beast, I'm gonna just bring it up here real quick. The Beast is an upcut roughing end mill, for those who don't know, and it's one of the most popular bits in IDC because it's designed to remove material. And this is what it is right here. That's what it looks like. It's got all the gnarly little teeth on it. It's not designed to leave a pretty cut. It's designed to remove material right now. And let's see if we can end that screen share. So there we go.
There is nothing there. There is no subtlety when it comes to that bit. It's to get wood out of there now.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's for. Now, the thing that I have had happen to me, and I have seen other people, they try to drive that bit really fast. I mean, exceedingly fast. So I did 1,000 inches per minute on a piece of maple, but I had that screwed down to the spoil board so it wouldn't move. No, I actually didn't. I had it. It was a vacuum. I had the vacuum table on. I was surprised the vacuum held it because I was driving so much material at 80% step over. But I've had it happen to me, and I've seen it happen to other people. When you're really trying to drive that bit with that up spiral, it's going to start pulling your material up.
Yeah.
It can actually pull your material off its clamps. Going at that, you're putting so much force into it, and
Well,
you'd have to really go ahead.
won't it
Really,
overpower your steppers at all? Have you ever had it suddenly pull like your X over to the side or something while you're in the middle of really powering it fast?
yeah. When you're going really fast, yes, it's going to overpower the steppers and pull it out of step. It'll literally pull it out of step. And what that means is your motors on your machine, they're literally moving in steps. And that's how the controller is telling it. The magnetic field in the motors switching, and so it's stepping over, and you can actually literally, just by the force of the bit, force the screw to turn faster, and that will make the motor spin faster or slower, whatever's going on. But the controller doesn't always know that that's happened. So there are limits to it.
Yeah.
But it'll remove material right now. Ain't no doubt about that.
That's what it does.
Right. Tim. All right, Tim. How do your bits compare to Freud and Whiteside bits? Oh, I've never put them next to each other.
I have a couple of Freud. I have a few Whiteside. I have bits from all kinds of different manufacturers. And I've only used a couple of Garrett's bits. I haven't got the chance to use the Beast yet. And I got to tell you, they compare pretty well. I've got no complaints. You can certainly spend a lot more money.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're going to get more performance out of them or not, debatable,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. So, on that note, it's a great question. Thank you, Tim, for asking that. But I've never put my bits side by side against my competitors. What I do is I'll get a bit in. I'll start off with the standard designs, and then I'll, excuse me, I'll test drive the bit at different speeds and what have you, get an idea of their performance, and then I will start to have my tool designers modify the designs according to what I want.
right. Yeah.
It's kind of like, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that it's a pretty subjective thing because we all have certain likes and certain dislikes. And Freud makes some good quality. I love Freud table saw blades, but I've had kind of up and down luck with Freud router bits. Some of them are really nice and some of them are just really meh, CMT is usually, I would prefer to use CMT over Freud. But when it comes to bits for the CNC specifically, I look for something, number one, that's designed for the CNC, because just because you can chuck a bit in your collet doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
If it has a guide bearing on it at all, don't try it.
Yeah.
Just don't. So I don't know. It's pretty subjective. How do they compare? That's your decision to make.
Yeah.
You can certainly spend a lot more money than you will at Garrett's website. Believe me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Speaking of router bits, so for those of you who don't know, IDC Woodcraft has the CNC router bit app for your cell phone. Right. So on that app is all the router bits that IDC carries. And it's got all the specs for the bits and all the feeds and speeds, and you can select different woods, different routers, different spindle. Like different trim router types, or you can select the spindle, and you can switch from metric to inch and get your feeds and speeds that way. It's available for both the Apple and Android. And you can download that for free. Just go to your store, search IDC Woodcraft, or below in the video, we're on YouTube. In the description area, there will be links to download that or to get to those sites to get them on your phone. Some people have asked me, why would I want to get an app for my phone? And then they start saying, oh, now I see. You don't have to go to your computer to search for it. And if you need to replace a bit or you want to buy a router bit, you can buy it right through the app. So this is a little card that comes with new orders, and then on the back it's got the QR codes where you can scan for your
Sweet.
thing. Yeah, and so you can buy your router bits right through there too. So it's the whole reason I came up with that was because I wanted to make it as convenient as possible for people to find the feeds and speeds data that they need,
Yep.
and just make it convenient, because I don't know, we're always searching online for something, and if I can give you that, just okay, here it is. Let's go to the app. Let's go find the bit in the app, and then we got it.
Pro tip: that you can now put clickable links in the tool database in the notes.
Yes,
you can now put clickable links there. So
yep,
you can put your link to that bit right there in your tool database, and when you need to get a new one, just click it and it'll open a web browser right to that page.
Yeah, I'll show you. IDC Woodcraft also has the router bit app. All right, so yeah, so I'm sorry, not the router bit app, the downloads, right, for Vectric, Carve, Fusion 360, and whatnot. And what was I just going to show you? Oh yeah, I was going to go into the tool database. What Mark's talking about is right up in this area right here in the notes section, the big white area.
I don't see the pop-up. I don't see your tool database.
Oh, you don't? Well, that's odd. It didn't pop up, huh?
Nope, you must have the window.
Yeah, in the white section there, it's there, and it's clickable there. But you can see the circles, right?
Yeah, I can see the two circles, but that's all I can see.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Today I shot a video to explain conventional versus climb.
Okay.
And that video, that was it. That is probably the hardest thing to explain.
It is.
Conventional cutting versus climb cutting.
It is.
So I did my best. I did my best on that one. All right, let's get on to another one, Mark.
Alrighty.
STL Woodworking. Well. Hello, Garrett. I see all of us made it back safe from WBC. Yes. And it was great to see you there and get to talk a little bit. When are you going to put out the
footage you shot?
Oh, yeah. So Adam is working on it. And by the way, brother, good to see you too. And thanks for showing up. So Adam is working on it. He was working on it yesterday, and then I started to do this video today with the conventional versus climb. So he switched to that so we can get that out. And then I'll get back to that, and then that will be put out probably in a day after that. It's basically a compilation of everything that was on there. All the stuff we shot, and then there's going to be a couple segments that we took out. We ran into a kid named Evan, 16 years old. And this kid has been woodworking since he was like 8, and he's got a CNC, he's got a Onefinity, and a lot of followers. So I want to get him on here too. Just
nice.
It's so cool to see someone young getting into this and doing that.
It is. It's fantastic.
And even a couple of people commented on they like seeing Liberty starting to learn this stuff. Liberty's like a little kid. You know? She's just eating it up. Oh, by the way, we decided we are going to put M&M feeds and speeds in the app.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. All right, Dale, what's going on? What is the tape she puts on the board, and where do you get it?
The ones where you were holding up the names, the Aura mask, I believe is what he's talking about.
Yes. Yeah, Aura mask. So Aura mask is, well, you can talk, Mark. I've been doing a lot of talking. Let's let Mark talk a little bit. You haven't used Aura mask.
I've never used Aura mask. I know how to spell it, and that's about it.
Yeah, so Aura mask is a thin, like vinyl masking. Julianne, get the link off our sheet, please. I'm not sure she's already doing it. And we'll put a link in the comments section. So this is an adhesive, thin material that you put on your board, and you can carve through it. And then you can paint whatever you've carved, and you can do it multiple times. We could carve the W, put a piece of order mask over that, and then carve the next one, or paint it, and then put a piece of order mask over it, then carve the I, paint it a different color, put order mask over it. You can carve over multiple layers of order mask. But
Yep.
so what you would do is put that on, you'll carve, and then you'll paint it, seal it, and then paint it, because you want to seal first, otherwise the paint will bleed into the wood. And then you just peel the masking off, and then you've got a nice, cool project where you can actually see what you carved.
Yep.
So this is the rules of the aura mask. Number one is you need to sand your material first, because or you want as much adhesive, as much of that surface making contact with your material as possible, because otherwise it can start to tear up around areas that you've been carving. So you want to sand it down. I sand it with down to 220 grit sandpaper, and then you want to super clean it. Take a vacuum, clean it, then take a vacuum again and clean what you didn't clean before, and then take a vacuum again and clean again, and then carve through it. And you also want to press it down. I use a plastic scraper. So it's yeah, it's I use it all the time. I'm surprised you haven't used War Mask, Mark.
I just haven't had occasion to need it yet. I don't do a whole heck of a lot of painted V carvings.
Okay,
I've got a roll of it. I just haven't used it yet. I got to get there.
gotcha.
So
Okay. Well, yeah, I do recommend Aura Mask, especially for your V carving. And if you want to have multiple colors on your project, or you want to use the natural wood color as your base around the lettering that you do, and then color the letters, like we'll spray paint this black or whatever Liberty chooses, and then we'll have wood, wood, and then whatever color the letters will be. And then you just peel it off. And I tell you what, Mark, when you do Aura Mask, you're going to find the most satisfying part of it is when you're peeling the masking away.
I've done that before with painting on cars and military vehicles and things like that. It's called weeding. Okay. I can take it or leave it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's get to another question with Eric again. Hey, Eric, when do a cutter path, I guess tool path, I select lead in and lead out, but I do not get that in the actual tool path.
Okay, you're doing it on an open vector? You know what? I'm not sure. Let's see. I don't think I have ever put a lead in or lead out on an open vector before, so let's try it. All right, there we go. I've got my open vector here. And, well, first of all, you want to lead in and you want to lead out. I'm guessing you're going to do a profile toolpath cut all the way through. So Z equals, and let's use a lead. We'll add a lead. I'll make it a straight line lead. 90 degrees. No, let's make it 45 degrees. 45 degree straight line lead, 1 inch long, and we'll also do a lead out. And we're going to cut on the vector. And let's calculate. Let's see, what bit am I using here? 1/2 inch. Okay. Well, I'm going to make that a smaller bit, just simply because I want to make it something that's a little bit more reasonable at this size. Okay. Now let's try that. Calculate it and let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm not seeing lead ins on open vectors. Right. So I've never tried to do a lead on an open vector before. I've always only always ever used leads on closed vectors. It's mainly used for a profile cutout.
Right.
So basically, I guess what I'm getting at is if you need a 1 inch lead in at a 45 degree, just draw that vector. and let it go from there. But I I'm not sure about lead ins and lead outs on an open vector. I've never tried them before.
Right. So that's assuming he's doing it with an open vector. I've done it on so let, I'm going to switch to my screen for a minute.
Okay.
So it's just to show what a lead in, lead out is. For those of you who don't understand what we're talking about, lead in and lead out is, let's say we're going to cut out this. Yeah, you see it?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to cut out the circle. And what a lead in is, you're telling the software that the router bit is going to start at the top of, I'm just going to create a box just in case so I created that little box there. The router bit is going to start right here, and then it's going to come in and it's going to start doing that circular cut all the way around, and then it's going to lead, after it passes this point, it's going to lead back out. And you can see I exaggerated this other arc right here, but just to show that it'll come back out and it'll be cutting all the way out until it reaches the end of that line, and then it'll pull out. And the purpose behind a lead in and lead out is to eliminate your tool marks. And tool marks are when the router bit comes down on a line, it's going to leave a little gouge when you're doing a cutout where it starts at. And so one of the things that may be, if he's using a closed vector, the lead length is not long enough.
That's possible. Another case for using leads is if you're using a compression bit. The bottom certain distance, it depends on the bit manufacturer. Some of them, that bottom upcut portion is an 1/8 inch tall. Some of them are up to 1/4 of an inch tall. And you want to get that part of the bit down below the surface of the material so you don't get chip out. So you lead in with a ramp, a smooth ramp of the same length, and it will get that upcut portion down into the material before it actually starts cutting that shape out.
Yeah.
So, but I'm struggling to think of a case of where you'd want to use a lead in or a lead out on a open vector.
No, well, it's not saying he's using open vector.
No, but he did specifically say he was using it on just a straight line.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. Yep.
I don't know that you can. I may be wrong, but
yeah, but I think Mark is right. Just add another line to it and make that your start point. Connect those lines, and then it'll just come around or come in on its arc, and then it'll leave when you don't want it, when you want it to leave. And yeah, that's perfect solution.
You can ramp that down for the length of the that vector that you add.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Perfect way to overcome that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, super cool. What time we got right now? We're at almost 9 o'clock. We got 19 questions. So at the top of the hour, we're going to stop taking in the questions, just because we got to work through all these questions, and got a couple other things I want to share. So I just said I got a video coming out about the conventional versus climb cutting, and when you want to use it and what it does. And I even I took the pen writing jig that we have, and I drew on the board so people could see what they're doing. I'm gonna, Julianne, can you turn on my other camera?
Yeah, I have a pen holder. I just need to actually use it.
So I'm gonna move this. Oh, we got the checklist there. I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. But you see, I've got this circle with the hash marks on it, and I'm using that in the video. But the machine drew that, which is really, really cool. And it's using this jig right here. It's a little pen holder that you can use you can draw with your CNC router. But I've seen somebody, okay, Julian, you can turn it off. I have seen someone was telling me, they told me that they draw out their projects first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to make sure everything does what it does. And
Hmm.
I think the perfect example for that type of use, using a pen first to draw it out before you actually do the carve, is when you're doing a puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been too many puzzles not fit right that people have made, and they're wondering what's going on. And if you draw it out on a piece of paper, cut it out, whatever you do, just make sure it's going to fit, and then you can confirm it all. And
I have a thing for technical drawings, especially old technical drawings. You can find some on, just look for old patent drawings that are now in the public domain, and you will find some interesting stuff. I love that kind of thing. Give me a front view, a side view, and a top view. I don't care what it is. I dig technical drawings. I'd love to. That's one of the things I want to do is get my pen holder and lay out some nice big poster paper and get some technical drawings going. I just haven't gotten to
yeah,
it yet.
yeah, you can plot with the CNC router too, just like what Mark just said. That pen jig is available at IDC Woodcraft. So if you guys
Oh, okay.
are interested in something like that, then we've got it. All right. Let's. What else do I have here? I talked about the checklist. I'll bring up the checklist again because the Mark swears by checklists.
Yes, sir.
I've seen too many missteps during the setup of your project, and I have missed too many steps during the setup of my projects, and that causes your project to get ruined. So I finally put together this CNC setup checklist. And I even passed it by Mark a couple times. He said, "Garrett, you forgot this, you forgot that." So I
Now,
added
I
it
didn't
in.
say it that way.
Well,
I said,
close
well,
enough.
have you thought about adding this? Have you thought about
Yeah.
that?
But everything he suggested also got added on here. It's kind of funny because you see there's lots of little things in here. These are actually all the stuff that we do, or even things we don't do that we should be doing, like making sure you got all your router bits lined up and set up properly. And then there's a double check area right here at the bottom. This checklist is available to anybody. Down in the description of the video, there's a link for that checklist. Get it and
And
use it every time.
and it looks like a long list, and it looks real imposing, but I'm willing to bet you already do about 2/3 of that anyway. You just have never seen it all written out step by step.
Yeah. So you get your material checks. You're making sure your material size matches your design size. You're making sure the material thickness is matching the what you have in your design, and then you're confirming your clamping method just for material. The material surface before you start your carve, and thickness matches the design after you surface it. Router bit checks. Then there's the start point checks. You're setting your 0 points. And something I've seen rarely, but I've seen it. The fact that I've seen it, I added it to the checklist. When you do set your 0 points, like especially if you're using a probe, the auto probe, that sometimes the control software, even though the machine does its thing the right way, it doesn't register in the software, in the control software. I've seen that happen. And so there's a check on there to make sure that you look at your control software and make sure it's set to 0.
Yep.
So that's available in the description of this video. Get it.
Yeah,
it's free.
it
It's
happens.
yours. Yeah. It's kind of like an airplane checklist, right? I mean, pilots make sure they get from point A to point B and don't kill you on the way
That's
by
right.
crashing a plane because they didn't check something. And so this is meant to make sure that your project is set up the right way before you start carving. It does what you want it to do, and don't run into a broken bit or the project moving on you while you're carving.
Unhappy surprises.
Yeah, and they leave for kind of ruin your day. All right, here we go, Mark. Sam Coleman, brother Sam. So Sam, is good to see you, brother. When creating pockets in wood for inlays, I'm inlaying ACM. Okay. What kind of tolerance offset would you give for it to fit snug?
I've not done wood inlays yet, but I do talk quite a bit to a gentleman by the name of Scott over at M&S Woodworks, who caused a bit of an internet sensation some months back, well, last year, when he posted his video, The Redneck's Guide to V-carved inlays. And I speak with him quite a bit. And his words are, there is no magic number. You have to test with your machine and your material, and you will find that magic number that works for you. What he did, his process was, he started with just 2 pieces of scrap material he had laying around. He had a piece of a 2x6 pine. He screwed it down to his tabletop, carved in his female, then took MDF and carved his male plug with that, glued it in. Then the next day came out, ran it through the table saw, and took a look at the inlay to see how deep it went, see where the contact points were, see where the glue went, how much of a glue gap he needed, and things of that nature. So there is no real magic number that will work for everything and everybody. Practice a bit in scrap and you'll find that tolerance for you. Now, again, I say that as a guy who has never cut an inlay yet, but I was taught years ago that you can't know everything. So surround yourself with people who know what you don't know. And that's directly from the guy who has done a lot of it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going to bring Jeff and Jess back on from Two Moves. Jeff does a lot of inlay work, so he can give you some guidance too. So I want to bring some people that know inlays. Sam, he's inlaying ACM, so ACM is aluminum composite. It's
yeah.
aluminum over uh, plastic. What is it?
Not an
Whatever plastic.
HDPE, is it? It's more of a composite material.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm asking.
I don't know. It may be HDPE, which would be a plastic, but it's basically a plastic with a thin layer of aluminum on it.
Yeah.
And it's good for outdoor use. So,
Nice.
Sam, if you're doing a straight inlay, I am not the guy to be talking to. Both me and Mark have a video out on inlay, but that's a V-carve inlay. So if you're looking for a straight inlay, got to find somebody else because I don't know, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I have never worked with ACM. I'm in a little bitty podunk town that doesn't even have sidewalks to roll up at night. Okay. So I got to drive 300 miles to the north or to the south to get the cool stuff, unless they'll ship it to me. And shipping sheet goods is expensive, believe me.
Right.
So.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Ponderosa Pete. I like that name. Hi, Pete. Question part 1. I am an RC aircraft builder that is now making the jump from plans to CAD and then to laser cutting engraving for parts. Part 2. Where am I having some understanding issues is what is the best and most efficient way to get from a DXF file
Into Lightburn,
Lightburn for nesting parts. Well, Mark, are you a Lightburn guy?
I know nothing about Lightburn. I know a lot of people who do, but I know nothing about it. Here's his part 3.
And there's his part 3. Is it best to make one large drawing of all the DXF files and bring them into Lightburn, or just import all single DXF files into one big job in Lightburn? So taking this, part 4.
Yeah.
With Julian. Okay. Is there any more, Julian? Nod your head. Yes or no? Okay. No. Okay. Or just import all the single DXF files into one big job in Lightburn and then let the software go to work. And then and now my head is getting too full in this. Okay. So I don't know.
I've never used Lightburn. I don't have a laser. Okay.
Right.
Let's see. There are several people out there. I'm trying to think of who I could recommend that is a Lightburn expert. Um, Overall, in general, I don't know how Lightburn works, if it'll let you have separate sheets. I don't know how big your laser is. And if this is a big job, you might have to create separate sheets and import each DXF to each sheet. Or you could import a huge uh, list of DXF files into the software and let it nest. But since um, I don't know how that software works, I would hate like heck to send you down the wrong path. You know?
Yeah. I've got Lightburn. I've not used it much. As a matter of fact, I'm still learning about it. I don't. It's got layers,
Okay.
but I don't know if it's got nesting ability or sheets on
Well,
it.
I
But
see Ronnie S over here says Lightburn doesn't nest. I nest in my CNC software, then export them, then import to Lightburn. Okay. So then Jack says it will.
no,
So
it
yeah,
will nest,
I,
but it uses SVG nest. Okay,
I
which I'm
I
assuming is a
don't have a laser. I'm working on it, so I'm really the wrong guy to ask.
yeah, yeah. Jack we got to get Jack on the show, man. He's Jack is a head full of knowledge, but come on,
Mm-hmm.
Jack. Public invitation. But anyway, Jack, maybe you can share a little bit about in the comments, and those of you who use Lightburn, help him out, because we are not the best ones to.
Right, Dave.
Chris for Lightburn, try Dave from the Clack Shack.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let's go to Sam. Sam Ramser. How to set button magnets flush in wood and best glue to use. So, you know what? Before we answer this, Mark, I want to just, for those of you who don't understand what nesting is, nesting is when you have multiple parts and the software will reorient those parts on your material so that you can make the most efficient use of the material. It'll move it close. It'll reorient the components again to maximize the use of your material, and nesting's a cool feature to be working with.
I committed a cardinal sin and took my calipers in the house.
Oh my God!
What can I say? Yeah, I know. Took my calipers in the house, and now I don't have them here. Uh,
Maybe Julianne's in
Basically,
the background shaking her head too.
yeah, I know. I mean, what can I say? It's been that long since I've used them out here. Um,
Bad boy.
for the button magnets, measure the thickness of them. That's how deep you want to drill the hole. CA glue.
Mm-hmm. CA
I
glue,
mean,
super glue. All right.
yeah.
Yep. What I used to do in metalworking was I actually cut the hole just slightly undersized when we press fit the
Mhm.
magnet, but wood can expand and that hole can
Yeah.
loosen up. So super
Yeah.
glue. All right. Rich, let's see. Typically, about how many times longer does it take to carve a 12-inch by 8-inch 3D using a taper ball nose with a .015 tip versus a .125 or an 1/8-inch end mill ball? My finish cut using a .125 ball end mill went from about 3.25 hours to 12 hours. So what I'm assuming is from going from a 1/8 ball to a .015, your time went from 3.25
12
hours to
hours.
12 hours. And that's because the size of the tip is so much smaller on a
Mhm.
.015. And so it's got a lot more passes to make just to cover that eighth of an inch.
Mhm. Yeah. where you exactly where your 1/8 of an inch ball nose could cut that one strip, that 0.015 has to make 9 passes to basically carve the same that 1/8 inch ball nose carved. Also, I saw a comment earlier. I had said something I needed to qualify. Also, what you have to remember is I said earlier that your machine moves at the speed of the slowest axis. What I should have said was your machine moves at the speed of the slowest axis that's moving at the time. When you're running 3D, that is always going to be your z-axis, because you always set your z-axis slower almost all the time than your actual feed rate. So if you have 120 inches per minute as your feed rate, but with that tiny tapered ball nose, you have your plunge rate set at 30 inches per minute, the whole piece is going to be carved at 30 inches per minute because that Z is going to be in constant motion. Okay. Now, if you were cutting a 2D shape where you have a plunge with a ramp with the same criteria, what'll happen is that bit will plunge in and your X and Y will move at 30 inches per minute. Then the minute that bit stops plunging and gets to the depth it needs to go, then it'll take off at your feed rate. But while all of the axes are moving, the machine is going to move at the feed rate of the slowest axis. And in 3D, that's always going to be your Z-axis. So check your plunge rate on that tapered ball nose. Because if it's 10 inches per minute, that's what it's going to run at. It doesn't matter what you set your feed rate to. It's going to move at the rate of the slowest axis. So,
yep. Julianne, switch over to my other camera for a moment. So just kind of going back to what Mark was saying, we've got an 1/8 inch diameter bit there. I don't have a 1/8 inch ball nose readily available here. And there's the 0.015 tip. So you can see that it's just much smaller, and it's got to cover a lot more paths in order to get to the width of that 1/8.
Right.
So all right, you can turn it off, Julian. Yeah, that's what's causing all your time. But what's the difference? The really fine point can make a really good crisp 3D carve.
Yeah.
Provided you're carving the right material.
Right.
If you're doing something like pine, it's not going to look very good.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with softwoods. It depends on what I'm cutting.
All right.
So.
All right. Hey, I got a question. Two questions. Need you to put them in the comments. Julianne's going to be taking notes.
Does she know this?
She does now. She takes notes all the time anyway. Julianne is she has a notebook with her, and she and she's naked without it. So whenever I like say, Julianne, I got to talk to you, she pulls out that notebook. She's ready to write.
Oh hell, here we go.
So first of all, coming from WorkbenchCon, I talked to a couple of vendors that have some products that I'd be interested in inventory, and that's because I want to start stocking not just router bits but other things. Like we're going to be getting calipers in very shortly, and for those of you, certainly be aware, because we're going to have a little thing going on with that you might want to. We're going to have a little golden ticket thing going on.
Oh.
Yeah. So we'll have the calipers, and when I release them, the CNC insiders, those on the IDC Woodcraft email list. First of all, we'll get a discount for a limited time on those calipers if they want to get a set. And so if you're not on the CNC Insiders email list, in the description of the video, there's a link to get on that email list. Anytime we release new products, almost all the time, unless I'm starting to distribute like a different brand, those generally don't get discounted. But IDC Woodcraft products you'll get like a 15% discount for a limited time. A pretty good deal for being on an email list. And I don't bombard. I send an email out every 2 or 3 days. But I want to know what kind of products that you would like to see in this, like the IDC Woodcraft store that would provide CNC related tooling, not just router bits. We are working on 1/2-inch tooling, and I'm also going to be working on 3/8-inch tooling as well, because I've had quite a few requests for that. But what else would you like to see? Put in the comment section with some of the other things like clamps or what have you. And also, what videos would you like to see?
There you go.
Yep, I want to start amping up my video output.
Yeah, I've got to get back into it. I just haven't had time. Oh my gosh. Things are slowing down though.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, making a video is tedious.
Well,
it takes quite a bit of work.
And when you got a large family, things get in the way, you know.
Yeah.
So, lots of things going on.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Jay Phillips. I have a board 5 inches by 16 inches, and I want to put 4 coasters 4 inches diameter. Is there an easy way to equally space them? Sorry, the board is 5 inches by 18 inches.
All right, let's do this. Let me get set up here, and I'll do something. It's a 5 by 18. Oh.
So Mark is going to get us set up in Vectric there, and he's going to show you.
Ready? It's set up and ready for whenever you want to join. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and make a circle 4 inches in diameter. Apply. There we go. Then I'm going to space it vertically. Now, slide it down here. Now you want to space them equally. Okay. Well, let's see if we can do it. I don't know if we can do this on 18-inch. I may have to play around a little bit. I've got it in move and transform mode. I'm going to hold down Control, click on that center, and drag a copy right over here. Let's get close to the end. And let's nudge this one a little bit closer to the end. Boom. All right. I'm going to assume you've already got 4 of them drawn, because otherwise you would be asking about linear arrays and things like that.
Yeah.
Real easy way of evenly spacing things. Select them all. Come over here into your alignment tools. And you want to align them horizontally. Okay, down here at the bottom, space selection. Right there. Click. And they just magically move so that they're evenly spaced.
You just taught me a new tool in Vectric.
That's all there is to it. The difference being this runs vertical. This icon here, this one runs horizontal. You can also space them evenly within a closed vector. Let me go ahead and do that. I will draw a rectangle the same size as the material. Let me just go ahead and do it this way. I'll do my X0, Y0. I'm going to anchor the center there. And I'm going to make it, my width in X will be X equals. My Y will be Y equals create. So I now have a closed vector that's the same size as my material. So I'll select my 4 circles first. hold down shift and select that rectangle last. Come up in here to alignment. And again, I'm aligning horizontally. I'll click inside last vector, and it's going to evenly space those circles. So the gap between here and here is the same as the gap between here and here, and here and here, and here and here, and here and here. So it's a slick little tool most folks don't even know you have.
Yeah. I've had Vectric for 3 years, and I just learned what that tool is. I haven't used all the features in that particular thing. Maybe I need to do a video on that, because
you would, some of the things that I have tried to do manually, totally forgetting some of these tools are there, will just drive me nuts. One of my favorites is that evenly spacing. How am I going to evenly space all these? Then oh, hey, there we go. That's how you do that.
That's totally cool.
So, okay.
Right.
You can take that out if you want to.
All right. Someone made a comment. Well, thank you first of all, Mark, for sharing that. That was an enlightening little tool. Speaking of which, so, for the Vectric users out there, you just see there's another tool in there in the arsenal that you can use in the Vectric software, but we never know about these tools. I've been at this for 3 years, and only just recently been diving into Kyle's course as well. And I'm learning all kinds of new tools that didn't even know were there, that makes your life a lot easier. If you are using Vectric and you're trying to barrel your way through it on your own and go through the YouTube videos, that's good. But there's a course out there that will teach you all that, from start to end, and really get you to understand how the Vectric software works. And it's with Kyle Inlay, which I will have him on again as a special guest. And I really recommend that. Instead of beating yourself up trying to figure things out, it takes a lot longer. You spend all the money on your machine, on your tooling, getting your shop together. Go spend the money on your knowledge to use the tools that you need, the software. Right. And it's not an expensive course, but you'll get a lot out of it. And that has been linked down below in the description as well. Go take a look. You can click the link. You can go look at his website and make a decision. But I strongly recommend you go teach it. Go get the education. And somebody said they wanted to see about, when I asked about a video about engraving. And so ironically, I had to use the engraving toolpath to do the drawing on the board for this video. So I'm like, okay, now I've got a good feel for this. I'm going to just have to do a video on the engraving toolpath.
Yep.
Tim's coming in. What's the best way to finish a stacked text project? I bet he's talking about putting like color inside of it and what have you.
That's kind of like asking what's better, chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla. I mean, the best way to finish it, and I don't mean to be flip about this, but the best way to finish it is the way you want it finished. Are you painting it? Are you using different colored stains? Or is it going to be indoors? Is it going to be outdoors? Is this something that's going to be seen from a distance? Is it something that's going to be real close that, you're holding your hands? That is such a loaded question. It's not funny. If it's going to be painted and it's going to be outdoors, I cheat. I use latex house paint. I use exterior latex house paint. I figure if it's good enough for my house, it's good enough for my address sign. If it's going to be indoors, I might use stains. I might use dyes, and then use urethane or lacquer, a spray urethane or lacquer as a top coat. There are a million ways you can go with it. So sometimes, let me throw it this way, Tim. Sometimes there is no best. The best is the finish that you like, that isn't super expensive, and that you can apply safely with the tools and skills that you have now. So play with different stains, play with different dyes, and play with different paints if that's what you want to do. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. So practice on scrap and have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So stacked text, you got one layer of text and you have another layer of text, and you have the base if you're doing a double stack. And it's a trick, because if you want to paint the top and then you want to paint the next or stain or paint whatever, paint the next layer and then do the third layer, even I haven't figured that one out.
Well, I
You can
have seen,
seal.
yeah, I've seen people paint the material, then cut that first layer so that the top surface is already painted. Then they'll get in and they'll paint that second layer, then carve the bottom, and then get in and paint that bottom layer.
Okay.
So they're carving
Okay.
through the paint on every step. I've not
Right.
done it that way myself, but
That
what the
sounds
heck?
that sounds like the way to do it. You paint the top layer, put oil mask over it to protect it, and
Mhm.
then you can carve your next layer, which you're carving the next layer flat. You're not even carving the letters into it yet. You're just carving the first layer. First, you paint the top of the board, put oil mask on it, carve it down to the next layer, um, paint again, like Mark said, and then you're gonna have to carve the third layer. But that's where the trick comes in, because then you're gonna start doing little hand touch up
Mhm.
and stuff like that to
And
make it work.
if you're going to do this any amount of time, get used to that and start learning how to paint. Go to,
Yeah,
go take an art course through your local community college.
go see. Yeah, go find Ray Kinman
Oh, that
on.
guy is a wizard. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
find Ray Kinman on Facebook. I've had him here. We're going to have him again.
Good.
Ray Kinman is a master hand wood carver. He carves by hand. He carves for Disney, and his work is phenomenal.
He is a Disney Imagineer. Yes.
Yes, he is. All right.
And just a
Good
fun
question.
guy to talk to.
Yeah, yeah, and he's passionate about what he does.
Hmm.
And he just bought a CNC, by the way.
Yeah.
So for the woodworkers who think that CNC machine is no skill and what have you, even the pros get CNC machines.
Yep.
All right, Rich, Mark had said something about travel speed, only able to go as fast as the slowest axis. So if my z-axis is only set to go, say, 30 inches per minute, does that mean when I program X and Y continued to go to go 160 IPM, will it?
It will once that Z stops moving. But as your bit is plunging, your X and Y are only going to move at that 30 inches per minute,
Hmm.
because that you've set the plunge rate for that bit at 30. It can't handle 160. So while that bit is plunging, it's going to go at 30 inches per minute. But the minute it gets down to the depth it needs to be, then the machine will kick in and it will move at the 160. So it's only while all three axes are moving it does it slow down. So that was the mistake I made. But then again, saying the wrong word is my thing. So
Show us that shirt again.
yep, saying the wrong word is my thing. Thank you again, Ray.
All right. Okay. I got to give a little shout out to Dwight here. So thanks for the common sense support. Dwight, thank you for the donation, $10. The way he does that, there's a below an IDC Woodcraft. Mark, you got it on your channel too, but we're not showing Mark's channel.
No.
By the way, Mark,
Mhm.
we need to get recordings of this to you so you can get it on your channel if you want them.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
Joanne, make note of that so we can capture this one and the other ones that we've done with Mark if we still have them. StreamYard only allows us to hold so much data, and then it starts to dump the
Mhm.
last ones,
Yeah.
and it doesn't record new ones. But anyway, there's a little icon below the video. I don't even know what it looks like. What's it look like?
Looks like imagine a dollar bill with just a dollar sign in the middle of it.
Okay.
So
And you
it's
can
a little
click that
rectangle
and
with a $sign in it.
gotcha. You can click that and you can donate, and that's just one way to say thank you, like Dwight has just done. So thank you, Dwight. Let's see, Eric. Okay. How do you know when to either sharpen your bit or just get another? Well, if you have, first of all, if you start getting little splinters in your cut, like a little tear out, just little pieces are starting to chunk off, then that's starting to indicate that your bit is getting dull. If you're starting to get little burn marks when you shouldn't be getting them because you're running at normal feeds and speeds that you've been normally running, that's another indicator that your bit is getting dull. Or if your machine is bogging down when it normally has not bogged down, your router bit is likely getting dull. Now, when can you resharpen a bit? When they're ½ inch or bigger, or let's say, take that back, 3/8 or bigger. If you're dealing with 1/4 inch bits, it's not really economical to do that.
Stop.
You'll spend more money in shipping and sharpening costs than it is to sharpen the bit. So unfortunately, 1/4 inch and smaller is not. Most places don't do it. I've heard there are a couple places, but I don't.
They will, but when you figure a new bit, when it costs 1/3 the price of a new bit to sharpen it, it's not really worth it. It's not really cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
You can touch up these brazed V bits that have the brazed carbide.
Yeah.
I take a diamond plate, a diamond hone, and just touch up the flat. Do not try to do the bevel. Don't touch the bevel.
Don't touch the bevel.
Just the flat, and just kind of 3/4. Take a look at it under a jeweler's loupe, and then maybe 3/4 after that, and then it's fine. Other than that, I don't touch bits. Also, if you do get a bit sharpened, have them size it for you after that. They will do it and give you a little piece of paper with what it actually mic'd out to after it was sharpened, because it is going to remove material, and your 1/4 inch bit won't be a 1/4 inch anymore.
Yes.
So if that's important to you, then you need to have them do that. Usually it's no extra charge. They'll just mic it, measure it with a micrometer, and go from there. But when you get into real expensive bits, that's when it's time to start looking into resharpening, because bit sharpening can run anywhere from, on the cheap side, $6 per flute and up to $50 per flute, just depending on the material and how hard it is. So if it's going to cost you $55 to sharpen a bit and $50 to buy a new one, let me move to the red column on the abacus for that calculation. You know,
Right.
if you've run over a screw or a nail, you probably need a new bit. If the bit is discolored, especially blue or purple, you probably need a new bit. And just keep an eye on the cut quality. If the cut quality is really starting to suffer, it's probably time to get a new bit.
Yep. Yep. And on that note, bits don't last forever.
No, they're
They're doing
consumables.
work, and over time they're going to wear,
Yep.
and you do have to buy a new one. All right. It's a good question. Thank you for asking that. Living in the garden in the Golden Triangle. Okay. Is there a way to import G code into Vectric and edit for my machine and settings?
No.
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 Vectric is not a G code editor.
Right.
It is a design tool and a CAM tool, or a computer aided manufacturing. It creates tool paths, in other words, and it generates the G code through the post processor, but it does not take G code in and figure out what to do with the G code.
Right. No. There are some online tools that you can use. I am kind of at a loss for what they're called, but there are some online G-code editors that you can upload the file to and get in and play around there. But I've not used them. I've only had occasion to modify G-code that way a couple of times. And then I just use Notepad because it's a text file. At the end of the day, it's a text file.
Yep. Yeah. Just open the G code up and yeah. G code editing, you do need to know what you're doing to edit your G code. If you don't understand G code, don't touch it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you can go your entire career and never modify a piece of G code. Some folks like to know what they're doing with everything, and that's great. I know just enough to make me dangerous, so I don't recommend it unless you really want to get in and study it and learn about it, in which case, by all means, go for it.
Yep. Yeah, we were altering the post processor today. We actually copied the post processor and edited it so it would it would park the machine in a different spot when it was done carving. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're doing when you're messing with G-code. All right, let's go with Dave Krause. He's out of Facebook. Hi, Dave. So, what sealant do you use before painting?
Again, this was when you were showing the aura mask and the signs that Liberty had cut. When you said seal the V carving with the aura mask, he was wondering what you used to seal.
So there's different stuff that you can use to seal the wood. So in this case, what I would do, I don't even seal the wood on this one, is before I carve. What I'll do is I'll spray like a urethane on this after it carved it. And that urethane spray will seal the wood, and then I can go and come back with a spray paint and spray the letters black or whatever. If you want to seal beforehand, then you can use sanding sealer, and that will seal the whole surface of the material. It's actually called sanding sealer. Minwax sanding sealer is the name.
There are, just know that there are a couple of different types. Zinsser, I want to say it's Bullseye, is seal coat. Zinsser seal coat is a shellac-based sanding sealer. And I believe it's Minwax. It may not be. It may be Valspar. Their sanding sealer is actually a vinyl sanding sealer. And the difference is it can be used under different paints or finishes. Shellac sanding sealers work really, really well. But again, it depends on how you're going to finish. So a shellac-based sanding sealer you can use under almost anything. So, because what you're trying to do is anytime that bit touches the wood, you've just created end grain. And end grain will absorb any pigment that gets even close to it. So you have to seal that to keep that paint or that dye or that stain from bleeding in to that end grain you just created. And that's where the sanding sealer, or even just, as Garrett said, some urethane or some shellac or even lacquer will seal it. Just make sure whatever paint you're going to use over the top of that is compatible with the sealer that you're using.
Yeah, one of the things to note with lacquer does not get along well with aura mask.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I discovered that. It just doesn't get along. You can use it, but it doesn't get along well with it.
Okay.
It starts to bleed. It just does weird stuff.
Okay. Probably compatibility.
What Mark was saying, wood is porous. It's if you got a microscope up to it at the end grain, you're going to see a bunch of little holes. It's like nothing but straws going through the wood. And so we want to seal those straws before we start painting. Otherwise, you get what they call bleed. And then whatever it is, it'll just run down those straws and it'll show up.
Just like that.
Looks just like that.
And it'll just absorb. And if you, well, never mind. You can test this if you make an end grain cutting board. Put a little bit of a good sized puddle of mineral oil in the center of an end grain cutting board and leave it overnight. Come back and see how much of that has leaked through onto the top of whatever you left it set on.
It'll actually leak
It'll
all
just,
the way through.
it will go all the way through. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
All right, I got a long one from Martin. I got a question regarding the G code. I am not sure, but every time I input the project's G code, it is completely off and it is way out of the project space. I'm not sure why. I use VCarve Pro and Bob's CNC.
I'll be honest with you. This would probably be a question for them, for Bob CNC. If you get a hold of their support folks, it may be. I mean, there are about 14 different things that it could be, and on something machine specific like that, it's the best bet is to go to the people who know it best.
I
So
agree.
I would get a hold of Bob's. There are a lot of things it could be.
Yeah, and they got really good customer service. You call them up, they'll call you back. They'll call you back at 10 at night. it's crazy. They got crazy good customer service.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And I know we got a lot of questions going here, but this kind of dovetails in with that question earlier. How do your bits compare to Whiteside or to Freud bits? Customer service and support is a major factor involved in that. I don't see Whiteside or Freud doing video series like these and having hangouts with you guys every week. I don't see them posting in Facebook groups and interacting with the community. That means something to me. So don't mean to embarrass you, Garrett, but I'm going to support the people that support the community and who genuinely like the community and like the people within it. Those are the people that I'm going to support, because I have never gotten as much as a thank you from a Mana or Whiteside or Amazon or eBay. But I can talk to Garrett anytime, and
All right.
that means something.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to bring Julianne out for a second because she's going to. So every package we send out, right? I mean, I'm not. Liberty writes notes to you, right? Julianne writes notes to you. They're talking in the background. What should we put in Bob's package, right? Sometimes they're wondering how many M&M packs they should throw in for this one or something like that. So
did we send them this sticker last time? It's pretty fun.
You're not going to get that from Amazon. I mean, that's just all there is to it. They don't care if you buy a bit from them or not, you know, and they don't care if you have a good experience or not. But Garrett and Julianne and Liberty, they do care. They want you to have a good experience. So
we're the ones that pack the stuff that goes to Amazon. You don't get M&Ms from Amazon. So just so you guys know, there's no M&Ms in your package if you buy it on Amazon from us.
Unless you order them.
Oh, I did try. Exactly. I did. Yeah, I actually did try. When we got to Amazon, I actually did try. And they said, it's food. Amazon won't like it.
But you can buy M&Ms through Amazon.
But it's just not the same.
Well, I know it's not, but what I'm getting at, that doesn't make any sense. It's food. Amazon doesn't like it. Oh, but they like the food that they sell.
Right.
Come on. Something ain't right.
You know, they got to make sure that everything's hunky-dory and you're not selling stuff that's got maggots in it and stuff, I guess.
True.
It's got to have expiry dates. But anyway, thank you, Mark.
People are so picky, aren't they?
Yeah. That's what these girls do when they're in there. So
yeah.
But thank you, Mark, for the little shout out. And
well, didn't mean to get all fired up, but I do get worked up about some things. By Godfrey.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, okay. Well, let's roll on. And there's a couple comments on there that's agreeing with what you just said. So thank you again. Okay, Brian Pittman. Question: I want to put a juice groove on a cutting board. What is the best way to go about this, and what is a good IDC bit to use for it? I'll tell you what, a good bit, the best one we have is either the 1/2-inch ball nose or the 3/4-inch ball nose.
There you
Those
go.
will make nice wide juice grooves. But
Yeah. 3/4 inch is about, well, it depends on how big the cutting board is. 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch is a great size. Yeah.
Oh, guess what? We have a couple samples of a down cutting ball nose.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so that'll be interesting.
Nice. Yeah, it will.
That's actually going to be one that's going to go out to our product tester. So, Julianne, remind me about that tomorrow. We got to get to the product tester thing because we put out an application and advise people that we're looking for product testers. So, because I don't have the bandwidth as much these days. What's the best way to go about doing the juice groove? What would you say, Mark?
I am setting something up as we speak. No, make sure I got that right. Well, it's a little bit too big or too small. Those. Come on. There we go. I'm trying to, I'm messing up as fast as I can. Believe me. And then we can, yes, there we go. All right. Now you can bring it in whenever you would like. There we go. All that to draw that rectangle. Okay. For a juice groove. Excuse me. I've got the vector selected. It's just a rectangle. And what I like to do is a profile toolpath. And I figure out about how deep I want that. I'm going to say, for giggles, let's go with 1/4 inch. And we can adjust from there if that's not good enough. You can use a standard ball nose. But if you have a bowl and tray bit or a core box bit, that will also work. Now I have a 3/4 inch bowl and tray bit, but do know it's got this little flat spot on the bottom. That's okay. We'll try it. And I'm going to carve it a 1/4 inch deep, and I'm going to carve on the vector. That's the important part, on the vector. I'm not going to do anything else. That's all it needs. Then we'll call it juice groove. And we'll calculate it. And now we'll preview it. And there you go. That's only a 1/4 inch deep. Now, if you don't like that flat bottom, you can reset. We'll go back. I'll get rid of, and I'll try a core box bit, which is a rounded bottom. Okay. Select that. Recalculate and preview that. And that's a little bit different. What is right, what is wrong, what is best is whichever one you prefer. This is another one of those cases of sometimes there is no best. It's whichever you would like to make.
Yeah, what was the first toolpath that you ran? I was looking based on this last question, so I wasn't listening.
It's just a profile toolpath cutting a 1/4 inch deep.
Okay.
And I used, I started with a bowl and tray bit, then I went to a core box bit.
Okay. Gotcha.
But you could also just use a ball nose end mill.
You can do a fluting toolpath too. You can actually create like two parts of a rectangle and put them together, and then you can run a fluting toolpath, and that fluting toolpath will actually taper that. It'd be like a downhill creek in it from one side to the other.
I have seen that where people have carved a little well at one end.
Yep.
And then they use the fluting toolpath to taper the juice groove down into that well. So, I mean, again, there is no best, there is no right, there is no wrong. If that's what you like, then go for it. You know, that you could, but you certainly can. When I I don't remember if I did it for somebody or if I was demonstrating it. They all seem to kind of run together here anymore. What I did when I created the vectors is I actually overlapped I split the vectors here on this end and here, and then I overlapped them by about 1/4 of an inch. So that way you didn't have a cusp in there where the radius of the bit,
Oh, okay.
So where this one is supposed to start, this one went past it. And then this one went past also, so that they overlapped and you had a nice smooth transition from one to the other.
Gotcha.
So,
all right.
Okay. Yeah. You go ahead and take that out if you want.
Okay. There we go. All right. Very cool. We got one more question. But before we get to that, it's just want to remind you, get the setup checklist. That's linked down below in the description. Get the checklist. And use that every time you set your project up. Remember to get the phone app, the CNC RouterBit phone app, IDC Woodcraft. You can find out on Google and Apple. Nobody's got a phone app for router bits. We will be adding a chip load calculator to the phone app. And for those who order bits the first time from IDC, you're going to get the chucking guide. It tells you how to chuck your bits and how not to chuck them.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, we got some special guests coming up. And again, put in the comments people you might like to see who you've been learning from. It doesn't have to be CNC. It can be other woodworking skills. I want to bring all the skills onto this channel. And so we all can learn. All right, let's go with Don. How do you run the shark pen bit without the spindle turning? So it's a great question. I actually just ran the quick engrave toolpath to see if it would create the spindle turn on, and yes, it would, because I used the post processor that tells it to turn the spindle on. So there's two ways to do this. Number one is don't turn the spindle on if you're running a manual machine. Just let it run. And if you're using one with a spindle here, you switch the spindle to manual. And when the swivel is, there's going to be a switch on your spindle. Switch it to manual. And when it's switched to manual, that means it's not going to be activated by the G code. That will turn it on.
Yep, that's how I do it. I just don't turn on I got 2 control boxes on my CNC router. You can see the big red knob on that one. That's the controller for the motors. The box behind it is for the spindle. I just don't turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll go through all the motions and everything, but it never doesn't turn the spindle on. I just don't turn it on.
And I'll tell you one other thing I do. So it's a nice little jig, right? So this is it, and it chucks up under your collet, and this actually free spins. So it'll chase around if you want it to, but I don't like it to. So I'll take a piece of painter's tape and I'll loosely tape the pen to the router so it doesn't swing around, but it's not holding it because I don't want it to fight against the spring loading.
Right.
So again, that drawing contraption that's available at IDC Woodcraft. And we got one more thing. Brian Pittman is giving us a super sticker, $10. Brian, thank you. Thank you for the contribution, the donation. It's nice when people do that. It's just a way to say thank you to me, Kate, Mark, the girls in the background who are keeping things in order, which I'll bring Juliana out. Looks like she's writing right now. So, okay, she's alert. I'll bring her out because we are coming to the end of the show. Brian,
don't want to surprise her.
Right. She's busy taking notes. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, got a whole page.
Is that all?
This is.
Well, I mean, it's like the whole notebook. I don't like where I'm at. Right
okay,
here,
all right. Okay,
you
I
know,
was going to
there's
say
a lot.
if that's only half of the page, you had an easy night tonight.
Well, I've got like a notebook that's 3 notebooks. So I've got like lined paper. I've got my actual dotted plotter paper. I've got like actual blank paper here, and it's all in one little nice,
Yeah.
bungee
Hey,
together thing. So
nice. Well, see, what guys don't know is there is the IDC Woodcraft drinking game. Every time Garrett says, "Julianne, make a note," we take a shot.
wait,
Oh,
hold on,
oh,
alcohol poisoning.
oh, we got to do it.
They'd already been doing it.
Hospital.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, he was can use the diamond drag bit as a tool. Yeah, the drag bit. The diamond drag bit is when you hear the term drag bit, do not turn on your router. When you hear
Yeah.
the word drag, don't turn on the router.
No. Well, you can, like I said, you can do anything once, but it'll explode before it ever touches the material.
Yeah.
What started that was Chris Gallagher said, "Can you set the spindle speed to a speed of 0? Some post processors will not let you do that. Even if you set it at 0, it'll come on at its minimum speed. So
Right.
your best bet is if you can't get away with just not turning on your spindle, get a hold of the spindle manufacturer and find out what you got to do to get that puppy to not turn on."
Well, here's what you can do. So I created a video not too long ago that was it talked about editing the post processor to add a dwell command.
Uh-huh.
So what you can do in Vectric, at least, well, all post processors, but you can go into Vectric, you can ask it to, you want to edit a post processor. What it'll do, it automatically copy that, so it doesn't ruin the first one. And then you can go in and you can edit that post processor, and you can take out the spindle on command out of that post processor, and then every time it generates G code, then you'll have to select that post processor for your drag bit.
Right.
And then every time it generates G code, it just doesn't have a spindle on command.
Okay. Yeah, it just depends on the machine and the machine manufacturer. Some of them, I mean, and the post processor that you're using it, because you're right, that is what controls it. And I think it's an M5 command, but I may be wrong there.
M3.
M3 is on, M5 is off, right?
Yeah. Yep. And M4 is M3 is actually in the machine world, it's clockwise on.
Okay.
M4 is counterclockwise on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, M5
okay.
is shut off. Okay.
All right.
So
Well, we're at the top of the hour, and everybody can hang on. What
Wi-Fi Dan says next week it's game on.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. You have a.
Yeah, you have to have an IDC mug to play. Okay.
Yeah, that's what that was. IDC mug, right there.
So are they going to get liquor-filled M&Ms? If somebody finds liquor-filled M&Ms, I think we do need that.
Go to Europe.
We might have to. The girls were actually looking into that, and they found out we can have M&Ms stamped with IDC.
Mm-hmm. We could even have Garrett's face on there.
They'll get my face on there. So, somebody said in the comments way early on, they said it seems that all creators in this space have facial hair.
I've been asked if I'm going to add the beard to my logo. No, I'm not. This is a temporary thing. We don't know if we're going to go with it or not. You know, I tried this about 4 years ago, and neither one of us were feeling the beard. But, you know, I turned 63 this month, so
I'm not far behind you, brother. Not far behind you at all.
So we'll see what happens.
Right.
It may be gone next week.
Yep. Well, hopefully we will have a special guest on next week. I'm shooting for Daniel from PWN at the moment, but we're putting our feelers out for anybody and everybody. So did you get some names, Julianne? Did anybody answer?
I've got video ideas. I've got products. Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot. I keep her busy. It's probably almost time for a raise for her again. All right. Well, brothers and sisters, it's been a fun evening once again. I came into this show tired, and I'm wide awake now. So,
I treat you so many ways. You got to like one of them, Garrett.
right. Have a great week, everyone. And again, keep your thoughts out there for Kate and her thing that's going on and with her son. And have a great, just create, have fun. And I'll see you on Facebook, YouTube, and we'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend. Good evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mark.